Welcome to In It to Win It. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. We are here for Monday market moves, what happened last week in the markets, and what we expect for next week. And thank you for allowing us to do work that we find meaningful. Thank you for giving us the most valuable commodity you have, your attention. We promise to do our very best to give you a return on it. All right, let's go to the charts. Okay, starting out as always with the S&P 500, we got a question on some of the indicators, RSI, MACD, and stochastic. You can look over here and you can see which ones we're using on TradingView, and you can simply copy and paste and put them in yourself. This is basically kind of what you type in right there. This is the one that we use. There's hundreds of them on there, but these are the ones we like. And basically all you do is you see this white line up here, this dotted line. When it's up in that zone, that's the time to sell. When it's down below this white line down here, that's the time to buy. That's it in a nutshell. It's not super complicated. Same thing with MACD. Up here is a sell, down here is a buy. Up here is a sell, down here is a buy. So we can see the S&P 500 is still floating in the clouds. It's as far as what it's going to do next week, man, I don't know. We kind of had a double top there, although it wasn't perfectly lined up, and then it just came down, kissed the 21 and shot right back up. So we're almost at 5,100 here. Maybe David Hunter is right and we are just going to get some blow off top. I don't know. We got a question on NVIDIA. Have I ever considered shorting NVIDIA? Well, if we did, the pattern that we would be looking for is not this. It would be, this is kind of what a double, we'd be looking for like a double top, a bearish signal that it's going down. And it would look something like going up like this, and then come down, and then go up like this. And then if it got to here, that's the point where we want to short, is like right there. We don't want to try to just guess the top right here. Basically, it looks like a double bottom, except you just kind of flip the screen upside down and it's an inverse. That's basically it. So NVIDIA is, the S&P 500 is up probably because of NVIDIA, because NVIDIA makes up 4% of the S&P 500. And I learned that a couple weeks ago, CalPERS, the largest US pension, bought into it. So they're literally gambling the retirement accounts of pension funds on chip stocks. All right, so largest US pension loads up on chip stocks, according to Bay Street. CalPERS, they doubled their shares of Intel, and they bought even more NVIDIA. And if my math is correct on this, then let's see. NVIDIA, they own 1/3 of 1% of each company. I can't help but think this is the next GameStop 2.0, and now the pensions are betting on it. But let's see, maybe they see something we don't. Overview, NVIDIA is apparently worth almost $2 trillion. Maybe they have some great dividends. This is what they see. For every $800 that you invest, you get 16 cents a year in dividends. So Prigler, I think you're right. I think we're going to solve the national debt with AI. So that should do it. All right, moving on to the dollar. Let's see, the dollar's down about 1/3 of 1%, hitting right on, whoops, let's get rid of that. Hitting right on the 200 moving average. Little bit stretched in the technicals here. A little bit stretched. Kind of looks like it's coming up on a bounce here. I don't see really any other indicators. We could draw a little retracement right there where it hit. Bias is towards the upside in the first few days of next week. All right, yields. Yields have, there's the 2-year yield hitting on the 200 moving average. There's the 10-year yield. It's slightly above it. This one is really interesting. It dropped 14% on Friday. This is the spread. This is the 10-year yield minus the 2-year yield. So short duration debt is getting, is paying more than long duration debt. Still got a ways to go on this, but we expect eventually this is going to move to the upside and we'll get out of clown world. And 1-month treasury is still paying 5.4%. That was up from 5.39 of last week. All right, and gold is up about 1% for the week. Close the week, we'll round up to 2050. Pretty cool. Is tapping on some resistance and quite a move on Friday. So we would expect to see a little bit of selling pressure in gold, starting to get a little bit stretched in the technicals here. I think eventually we're going to see this roll down and kiss on the 200 moving average, possibly even lower. Yeah, see a little bit of downside for gold, although it's looking strong with a close on Friday. May pop a tiny bit, but our bias still for the next few weeks is inching closer and closer to that 200 moving average. Here's another interesting one. This is the S&P 500. I'm going to go out to the weekly for this. This is the S&P 500. No, let's go to the monthly. This is the S&P 500 divided by an ounce of gold. All right. So basically it takes two and a half ounces of gold to buy one share of the S&P 500. If we just go back about, what is that, 13 years or so to 2011, you could buy one share of the S&P 500 for less than 1 ounce of gold. And we fully expect that to reverse itself. If it's easier for you to think of it this way, this is the inverse of that graph, is that. And basically this is gold divided by the S&P 500. So right now it would take 0.4 of the S&P 500 to buy 1 ounce of gold. So for us to really enter a secular bull market in gold, we need this graph to go up and we need this graph to go down like that. We need gold to start outperforming the S&P 500, move down. And we need this chart to move up. So as we might be getting a little double bottom right here. I mean, there is quite a bit of support around the level that it's at now. Just need this to reverse, the S&P to roll over, and gold to start outperforming. All right, leveraging that on GDX and GDXJ. I'll go back to the daily. There we go. Had a little pop week before last. We got those in. Looks like it might still be rolling over. I think generally anywhere along this white line is going to be a decent deal. Have quite a bit of resistance around 25.75, somewhere around in that range. Like GDX a lot for the long run. GDXJ, yeah, same kind of thing. We made a purchase the week before last. It's slowly grinding a little bit higher. Yeah, anything along this white trend line, I think, is a pretty good deal. Franco-Nevada is still a deal. We're saying if you set a limit order around like 105, it'll probably hit. Didn't quite hit this week. Maybe it will next week, but anywhere in this range is a good deal. Feedback was wondering about our thoughts on Franco-Nevada and how we get the 15%. Well, basically what we're saying is that from 160, if you take 15% of their net asset value and subtract that, it comes out to 136. We'll call it 135. And it's extremely likely that they're going to get that 15% back. The mine may not open for another year, 2 years, 3 years. It depends on, how long this is going to take to iron itself out and how long the Panamanian government is willing to go into debt by digging their heels in. But we fully expect that this will reverse, and we think that the market completely overshot this. And basically, as long as it stays down here, we think it's a good deal, and the market thinks we're wrong, but we think the market's wrong. So we'll see. Maybe we're wrong. I don't know. Time will tell. Okay. Oh, this one, we haven't talked about this one before. I don't think. This is Royal Gold. This is another royalty and streamer. And probably, Franco-Nevada is number one. This is probably number two. Although we don't think there's going to be a whole heck of a lot of upside in the next gold bull run. We got into this thing 3 years ago. But it is coming up on an interesting bounce right here. The top three are going to be Franco-Nevada, Royal Gold, and then Wheaton Precious Metals. And we just think that there's more upside in Wheaton Precious and Franco-Nevada than we do in Royal Gold, but there it is right there. It does look like it's coming up on a bounce. Technicals are really stretched. They do pay a very, very small dividend, so not much to write home about. but it is increasing and has been for a long time. So that's the mark of a good company. All right, wheat and precious metals. We meant to bring this one up last week. We didn't, but check this out. It just absolutely got crushed here and is hitting right in a long-term Fibonacci. We bought in before right around where it is now and then backed up the truck down here at $32. But I think a limit order around 39 or something. We're actually, Daniel and I were thinking about running an option on this, and we ended up not doing it. We want to see a few more days of action. As much as it's getting washed out here, it could go a little bit more, although this RSI turning up makes me think maybe we missed it, but we'll see. We'll see. We like this one a lot as well, increasing dividends over time, and we think this will do very well in a gold bull market. Barrick Gold. All right, we got a purchase in. Our limit order hit at $14 week before last. That was nice, shot right up. Probably should have run an option on that. And what would that have been in percentage? I mean, we got it at 14 bucks, like 6%. Okay, not amazing, but anyways, we think this is going to be a really good one over the long run. And moving on to Newmont, got some interesting news on this one. Okay, so we had limit orders in all along here. Another one for 32, it hit, one for 31, which hit on Thursday, and then we got one last one in here for $30. Hopefully it hits, maybe it won't. Basically, they sold 8 of their assets, and they're focusing mainly on their 8 of their lower grade assets. And now they're going to be focusing more on their tier 1 assets, which is, I think, kind of good. It's going to get rid of a lot of expenses. They did lower their dividend, so sit down for that one. It went from 40 cents a share to 25. So instead of getting, I think it was 4.6% dividend, it's going to, well, here, I could just look it up instead of making stuff up. Yeah, 4.6 dividend. It's going down to 3.87. So you're going to get $1 a year for every share you get. You know, if you get this at 30 bucks, then that'll be around a little over 3%. But I think the bet is still on. I like it a lot. A couple months ago, we had Rick on the show, and he mentioned that he was selling puts on Newmont, which basically means he collects a little premium in the meantime, and if the share price gets down to what he's got the put at, then he gets put to the stock. So in other words, he's got to buy it at the lower price. So we could pick his brain on that when he comes back on the show again in a couple of weeks. Okay, and Nico Eagle, I don't see any buy here, although our limit order for 45 hit. Now, this is the one where it would have been really nice to have an option. I think this went up 10%, 11, okay, even better. Yeah, oh man, can you imagine just having like a quick option on that? Oh, that would have been amazing. But coming up on the 200 moving average, I don't see any buys here. Technicals are getting slightly stretched there, but yeah, like Agnico Eagle a lot, you know. Yeah, glad the limit orders hit. Gold Royalty Corporation just screaming into the clouds. This is nice for a change. We're finally up a little bit on this one. Let's see. Okay, so we're wondering what shot it up when it had just been boring for the last, 6 months. And I can't remember who wrote in, but they said Katsua Research basically put it in their weekly newsletter, and so they got publicity. I found out they paid this research company $500,000 to advertise for them, and maybe people are waking up to the value of Cote, and this is going to start cash flowing, and it's better. I'm not sure if this is at a great deal anymore, although I like the technicals a lot because we've moved above the 200 moving average. The 10 is starting to catch it right here. It just bounced off it today. The 21 is moving above the 50. That's bullish. And if this continues even sideways, the 50 is going to move above the 200, which will create a golden cross. Like this one a lot as far as in our speculative gold royalty plays. And G Mining Ventures looks like it's starting to carve out a little bit of a base here. So if you weren't able to make the boot camp and pick this one up, then we might be approaching another opportunity here. I want to see these technicals get a little bit more washed out, but maybe this will get picked up by the 50 moving average. We will have to see. Another one is Origin Royalties. And it's boys asking, Steve, do you prefer origin royalty? He says, why do you prefer origin royalty rather than Empress royalty? And it not super scientific. Basically, for every one of these companies you see, we study this about an hour a month. So things that you don't have to study are things like GDX or GDXJ or XLE. These ETFs in the big sector, they're going to do the work for you. And as long as you understand the underlying thesis in the commodity you're betting on, that's why I think they're great for the average investor. In some aspects, we have no life, and we like studying these things, and so we do. But we can only study so many every month. And if we had to choose between Origin and Empress, both of which were in the last Rick Rule royalty and streaming boot camp, we got the next boot camp coming up. There's a link down in the show notes below. I hope to see you guys there. It should be amazing. Prospect generators. But between these two, if we go and we just look at the financials here, the overview, this market cap is over 100 million, which isn't big, but it's something. And so the part available to us is 80% of these free float shares. If we do the same with Empress Royalty, their market cap is 26 million. So much smaller market cap. You might be able to buy it. You may not be able to sell it. That was a big part of it. Another part was if we go and we look at their assets, here's Origin. Okay, we got a producing one right here. This one's an up-and-comer developer, should be producing soon. Here are their other royalties and their locations on the planet: Canada, USA, Mexico, South America, Africa. If we go to Empress, same kind of thing. Where's their portfolio here? They have 3 producing assets. This 100% silver stream, it's mostly a gold mine, but they get the silver out of there. So they're in Peru, Mexico, Mozambique. Their development project is in Mexico. And then all their exploring projects, all 11 of them, are in Canada. So we just liked the bigger market cap of Origin. We liked that they had a lot more properties. We liked that they're a little more spread out across the globe. We thought reducing the risk. So that was our reasoning there. All right, going back to the charts. There we go. So that's Empress Royalty. As far as an entry onto Origin, I'd say just a limit order anywhere around like 46, 47 cents. It's going to take a while for this thing to iron out, but it should do quite well in the gold bull market. Same with Empress. With such a low market cap with both of these, limit orders only, and probably a limit order around where we are now. Maybe some stink bids in for 19, then 16, then like 13 if you get lucky. Although it's probably not going to get there. All right, and let's see. Beck wants to know about Bluestone Resources. Beck, thank you for the super. If you guys are enjoying this and you want to support the show, you can do so through YouTube with a super donation, or there's a link down in the show notes below. So thank you, Beck, and to all who have donated. All right, Bluestone Resources, their main mine was originally underground, and they got permission from the government to make this open pit, and it's kind of decent grade, so that should be nice. As far as an entry point into this, that's about all I know about Bluestone Resources, so don't get any other fundamentals on me other than that. Let's look at the financials here. Small market cap, 52 million Canadian. Free float is only 60%. So, not a very big market cap at all. Only 30 million of that is available to us. Limit orders only. Looks like after that news, it started to level out right here, hit a right along the 200 moving average. Probably not a coincidence. I don't know if you believe in this company. I would think kind of anywhere around here, and then maybe back down here around 23. If this gap gets filled, they usually do, but if the gap gets filled, you might have a nice little order down here around 25, and then maybe your first entry point kind of around where we are now. All right, moving on to silver, down about 2% for the week, still just trading in this channel of 22 to 26 We placed some leverage bets back here when it hit 22. But what I do like about this, if I go out to the 30 minutes, it's a little bit more obvious. And we can take a retracement here from the bottom to the top. And we can see it's kind of hitting in this Fibonacci, and then it bounced up just on the last hours of the trading day. So close the week at, we'll round up to 23. That's exciting. Some of the leverage bets we placed here were on SILJ. We did one bet here. We don't have a sell order underneath this. This is just buying straight shares. We probably should. But although the stock is responding quite nicely, so far we haven't needed to, but that probably would be a good idea. And then we took out an option on this, a call option. So ideally what we'd like to see with this little yellow arrow is we would like to see this just shoot to the upside, and then we'll cash out immediately. But so far we're up on that slightly. We'll see how it irons out. Okay, copper is up 4% for the week. That's a nice change. Kind of trading in this little pattern right here, this little channel. I don't know, got a reversal bar there on Friday. I'm kind of biased towards the downside. Immediate support's going to be around $3.75. But until it breaks through this channel right here, kind of hard to tell one way or the other. It just seems to, like, you know, when they get in these channels like this, it just kind of seems to do that Charlie Brown pattern. COPX, don't see any buys on this. I don't see any setups. It's hitting right on the 200 moving average here. Technicals are getting a little bit stretched. So, you know, if our bias is to the downside in copper, then this should hit that and bounce down. We'll see. COPJ, same kind of thing. There was a tick week before last, if you could catch it, down to 1650. This one closed, COPJ closed at 1765. Yeah, don't really see any entry points. Maybe the stink bids 1650, like I said. You know, it's going to take a while for this one to iron out, you know, until the economy starts getting in gear and we have more demand for copper. Then a leverage bet on that is not going to do as well, but we'll see. Arizona metals, I think a nice little double bottom here would be around 122. We missed that one. We'll see. We might get a second chance here. We'll see if this comes up and then bounces. If it does hit 122, I would be looking for that, and then look for a reversal bar to the upside, and that might give you a purchase around like 124 or 125. Uranium dropping out of the sky. Oh my God, what is happening? This is the month-end smash. Researching John Quakes, and what he wrote about it, he said basically traders are basically trying to make a quick buck before March comes. So he expects maybe a little bit more selling pressure here. We thought $100 was basically going to be the floor for spot. Looks like it broke through that a little bit. I think we can generally keep that still in the same ballpark, but we'll see. We did make a purchase just before the market closed today on SRUUF. They are trading at quite the discount. It's kind of impressive, over 12%. And that should come down a little bit more when this gets rebalanced, if our math is right, or at least get pretty close to it. Yeah, we didn't think we're going to be buying any more physical uranium, but sometimes the market gives you a deal and you got to take it. We think that come March, we might be able to swing trade this, although we didn't do it on an option. We just bought straight up. All right, and Kazatomprom seems to be ironing out a little bit of a leveling here. If there's ever going to be an entry point, we'd like to see it kind of come up here to the 200, the rising 200-day moving average. That might create an entry point, although there's a little bit of support where it is now. Yeah, still looking down. Technicals are getting pretty stretched. So if we see like an upward tick down here, that would be a good sign for the upside. Kazatomprom, same kind of thing, just kind of grinding sideways. Collect your dividends, they're huge. As far as any kind of entry point, we don't really see it. Maybe we could run a short-term retracement here. Not really, no, it bounced through it. Yeah, don't see anything there on Kazatomprom. URA and also URNM are getting smashed to the downside, rising 200-day moving average. Technicals are getting pretty stretched. If there's going to be another entry point on this, I believe it'll be coming soon. I don't know if it'll hold this, you know, the level that it's at now. The next support down is going to be probably around 25.50. That would meet up around the 200 moving average. URNM, we thought the floor was at about 50. That was wrong. It blew through that, went to 47. But there is a fair amount of support right where it is now. If you follow that little red line all the way across, you can see all the price action right there. And maybe we should put up the same chart that Patrick had where it shows all the volume and the spikes. It is kind of handy because then you don't have to zoom out on the chart and see it yourself. It gives you the answer, you know, so you can zoom in like this and it'll tell you. Yeah, a lot of support around where it is now, but bearish reversal to the downside. Don't see any of the technicals turning up. And URNJ, this might be coming up on another buy. I didn't think we would be adding to this. Maybe we should have trimmed our position up here, but I think that the juniors are going to be the next real leg in this bull market. I think it's going to be stolen from Cameco and Kazatomprom, and it's going to be given to some of the junior companies. Like some of the generalist money is coming in now, and I think some of the like FOMO fear money is going to be moving in this next leg. And so I think we may be wanting to accumulate a little bit more URNJ in the future. We'll see. We'll see. But don't see any purchases right now. I mean, this could continue crashing to the downside. UROY was a different case. We took actually a, well, we placed a bid here, and then we placed a sell order if it gets down to basically this white line right here, which means it will have broken this previous back support. It will have broken this trend line, not that it's got to obey this trend line, but everyone can see it's hitting along there at 5 points. We need at least 3. And so if it gets down there, it'll sell for, I think it came out to like an 11% loss or something. But we also placed an option on this. So we've got an option all the way out to October, I believe. And we'll see if that hits or not. I think if we're getting close, now this is very leveraged to uranium. If we're getting close to a bottom, which we should be by the end of February, and then get the March spike, I like this option bet a lot. Uranium Energy Corporation, don't see any buys, although we are starting to enter the support district right here. That's what we're going to call it, the support district. You know, so I don't really see any buys. Technicals are getting really stretched. We like to see that a lot. What's it look like on the weekly here? Oh no, that's just still in the clouds. Okay, never mind. Hold off on that one. All right, and Scotty and Ironworker want to know about energy fuels. Okay, what do we have here? All right, still been beaten down just like the rest of the uranium sector. Technicals are down quite a bit. Don't really see anything turning to the upside yet here. We want to see like this just starting to nick up, you know, like right here, we want to catch it like that. The first one to turn up is going to be the stochastic when it does, and it'll go faster and higher. And so that's kind of the indicator that you're looking for when you're looking for a reversal here. But ideally, we'd like to see some kind of double bottom right here. And then that would make me feel a lot better. If you really believe in this company and you just have a life and you would like to have these orders hit while you're fishing, maybe one where we are now at $6, another one at 5, lining up with this support, and then another one at, call it $4. Maybe not quite $4. Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, $4.50. How's that? Something like that. Okay, and Ham wants to know about URG, URNJ. What's the market cap on this one? 422 million. All right, you're good. I still wouldn't do a market order, but you know, a little bit better than 26 million. Okay, so back support is quite a bit. Well, let me go out a little bit further here. Let's go out on the monthly. We got some history on this one, which we like. Bring it to the weekly. So here's what I'm looking. I like to start out longer term. So we'll start with a monthly, look at the technicals, a little bit stretched. Weekly, still kind of high. Daily, Daily's starting to look good. Looks like the Stowe might be turning up, but yeah, I'd like to see a little more selling pressure, bringing it back down around here, maybe like $1.50, something like that, $1.45. You know, wait until this 200 moving average gets a little bit closer to the price action, and that will give you a clue. All right, oil's cruising along, looking really good. Super excited for this one. Basically flat for the week, but did fall below the 200 moving average. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Where's, yeah, oh, that looks good. Yeah, I forgot. It's above the 200 and moving average on the weekly, and above the 200 moving average on the monthly. And yeah, I like this one a lot for just a long-term bet here. Just collect your dividends. The easiest way to do that, if you have life, is XLE. Their biggest holding is Exxon. Second biggest is Chevron. That makes up most of the fund. And oh, we said last week that this was a bear flag, and we're on bear flags usually move to the upside. No, we misspoke. This is a bull flag. And ideally what you want to see, there's the pole, and then ideally the flags will generally move like kind of down a little bit like that, and then that generally resolves to the upside. A bear flag would look something like, let's see, how can I draw it here? Maybe it would look something kind of like that, you know, in that range like that. Don't look at the share price while I'm doing this. I'm probably jacking this up, but that's basically a bear flag. It'll come down, bounce, and then go to the downside. And the opposite of that would be a bull flag resolving to the upside, which it did. XOM, I don't see any purchases here, but happy with our position in this one, just collecting the dividends. Blackstone Minerals, we had our limit order hit at $15. Like we said, this thing could basically move sideways and you still get paid. Okay, now we're recording this on Friday because we're going to be gone over the weekend, but they paid a dividend. So check your account on over the weekend or on Monday, and you should have gotten a dividend from Blackstone that you'll have to manually go in and buy the shares. This one's for Americans only. All right, and natural gas. Natural gas closed the week at 160, just kind of did a little bounce here. Yeah, I don't see any purchases in this, although it's getting extremely cheap. The only way we're playing this is Devon and Equitable. And you know, both of these we're going to need to see like kind of a double bottom here to get something out of this. Equitable, our limit order did not hit. We had it at 31.84, which we think we're going back. We must have found some exact level. We got into the weeds there, but basically just shot up at a good earnings report, and everyone loved that. Got another dividend. Here's the dividends. Not fantastic, but if you believe in the natural gas North American story, then this company should benefit quite well. All right, coal futures still sitting around 125. We're going to be waiting on this for thermal coal till about March. Met coal closed the week at 314. We're going to be waiting till around June or so before we make a entry into these ones. Here's the coal ETF. We're starting to get a little bit of action here. Starting to get more buying. Okay, so see these bars right down here. This is the volume, and you know, you can hide that if it gets in the way of the chart, or you can show it. I like showing it unless the chart's in the way. But yeah, starting to get some buying here. So this is exciting. Need another couple of months for this to iron out, give us some kind of pattern, and then we can start buying into this ETF. Glencore. What happened with Glencore? All right, so as I understand it, they spent about $7 billion. I think it was 6.95 billion on the tech deal. Okay, if you're not sitting down now, go ahead and sit down. The dividend is going to suffer. If my math is right, I think our new dividend is going to be 1.4% as opposed to where was it before? It was north of 7. Yeah, 7%. So that's a stinger. But I think there's some good news with this. Basically, we're still doing some work on this, so we'll get you more of an update. But from what I can tell with looking at it for a couple hours, if my math is right, it looks like what they bought with tech, they should start cash flowing on that in about 1.4 years. So was that a year and 5 months or something? They should recoup that $7 billion that they spent and then start making more. So I think this is actually a good thing. If your time horizon is longer than a year and a half on coal, which ours is, it's 5 years or more. And I kind of like it. You know, you're not going to get paid that little dividend. So if this is for your retirement account that, you know, you're kind of counting on that income to come in, then maybe this isn't the next year and a half for you. But if you are a little shorter in the tooth, as they say, and you have more years to go, I think we're approaching some pretty good deals here. And the technicals are getting pretty stretched. So our 950 order hit, and we got lucky because it gapped down and we got it at 942 when the market opened. So that was cool. Don't have another limit order in yet, but I probably should because I want more of this company. And where would one be? Maybe one, just easy math, like right around $9. Okay. And moving on, let's see, Robert wanted to know about BTU as far as a technical entry. I still think kind of right around where this white line is, you know, right around this 200 moving average, maybe just north of $23, something like that. Might be an interesting entry point. You know, they do pay dividends, although they're not fantastic. I mean, it's less than 1%. But what the company is doing is they're buying back shares. So, you know, with less shares out there, if they buy some, then it makes fewer of them available, and each one of those becomes a little bit more valuable. So yeah, I'd say around that 200 moving average. Excuse me. Although I think we're going to want to wait on most of these coal stocks until, you know, April, May, June, something like that. All right, Bitcoin still floating around 51,000. Patrick seemed to think the entry in the breakout is going to be around 60,000. So I'm certainly not an expert on Bitcoin. As far as platinum just closed the week above 900. So it's floating around in the 800s for a little while, just forming out a base here, waiting for Russia to empty its shelves of platinum. Palladium, same kind of thing. Shot above the 800s, got almost to 1,000 and didn't quite get there. Carving out a base, waiting on Russia to empty its shelves of palladium. And here is the chart that we like a lot. And this one is the platinum and palladium added together, divided by 2 to get the average cost of both the metals, and then divided by gold. And we can see that we are at 0.46 to 1. Pretty cool. We got any hiccup, as soon as Russia runs out of both of those, this is going to skyrocket. Easiest way to play that is the SPPP, the Sprott Physical Platinum and Palladium Trust. All right, and BHP, so much for our textbook entry here of hitting on the 200 moving average and in the Fibonacci. That dropped down to the downside, probably because of this approaching dividend. We thought that it was priced in there, but doesn't look like it is. Also, they are basically halving their dividend. I'm not really sure why, other than maybe low commodity prices coupled with inflation didn't help. Yeah, I don't know. If anyone knows why the dividend went down, would love to hear it. Rio Tinto. Okay, so remember we were saying back here that we would really like to see that this come down to the 200 moving average, establish something along that. Okay, so see, we're hitting in the retracement right here, and let me get rid of this here so that you can see more of the chart. Hit right on the 200 moving average. Daniel and I were talking about this right here, and we're like, is this an entry? And we decided no. We wanted to wait for some kind of double bottom. So see, like how we see, look at, let me zoom in here. Okay, look at this bar and look at this bar and see how it's got a double bottom and then it's shot to the upside. We'd like to see some sort of setup like that right here on Rio Tinto. So if it goes up and then comes down on the 200 moving average and then moves up, we think that's a buy. They have a dividend coming up right here. Still, I mean, pretty good dividends, 5.8, 6.9, 11.8, like it one a lot, follows copper. Maybe once, maybe this is the washout from the dividend, but you can usually time them pretty good around the dividends, you know, like we did back here. Look at that. So maybe this is a buy. We'll see. TLT got to with the long-term yields right here on the 20. They shot up on Friday. That moved this. I'm sorry, they went down on Friday, which moved this up slightly. We basically need the Fed to reverse interest rates, and then this one will do pretty well. And listener questions. Let's see. Okay, Cloudbuster says, of everything mentioned, which top 5, in your opinion, have the biggest upside over the next year? So which top 5 commodities? I would say in order of conviction is probably number 1 is gold. Number 2 is probably uranium. Number 3, oil. Number 4, coal. And 5 is actually probably bonds. I think that the interest rate of bonds is going to go down, which is going to drive the value of these things up. Okay, so that would probably be our 5th conviction one. There's some wild cards in there. I mean, platinum and palladium, you guys know the story with that. Those could be a wild card that could happen tomorrow. But we think that one's probably more of a 25, 26 play. Yeah, that's how we feel. Cloudbuster. All right, and Clifton wants to know about, it's a materials index. Okay, so the symbol here is FMAT and XLB. They're essentially the same thing, but this one has more volume. So we'll look at this chart. I looked through all their holdings. I'd never heard of these funds, but I didn't recognize anything in there. Oh, well, I recognize a lot of stuff, but I don't study any of those companies except for Newmont, and that was only 3% of the holding. So can't tell you anything fundamentally about this, but I can tell you technically, and it looks like, okay, so we broke above that resistance, although it's getting pretty stretched. See the technicals here? Let me start out on the monthly. Middle of the road monthly, that tells us nothing. Upper end weekly, that tells us it's overbought. Upper end daily, that tells us it's overbought. So looks like their dividend is probably going to be coming out in the next month or two. That will probably drive this down a little bit to pay for it. I would be looking at just our standard, what do you call it, technical indicators here, Clifton, and I would just be looking at around the 200 moving average. I would be looking for a double bottom. And yeah, but I don't see any purchases here yet. It could continue up, but I think with technicals this stretch, it's more likely to the downside. All right, and Kat wants to know about Lockheed Martin. If war is going to happen, this company should do quite well. All right, I don't know anything about Lockheed Martin except that this is probably a real candidate for being a dividend aristocrat, which basically means that their dividends increase in dollar amount every year for 35 years or more. And they're on the path to do it. So as far as an entry here, let's see, it looks like they just paid a dividend, and that's probably what drove this down. I mean, it is hitting in a messy Fibonacci right here. That part I don't like. It's just kind of filthy. It's dirty. Maybe a limit order down here around 400 or so, but this is, I believe, one of those companies like Coca-Cola. You know, you just kind of have it for the dividends and expect that, okay, whatever I put in now, here, let me pull up the dividends for you that you can see. So here's the dividend, 2.68%. This is the amount that you're getting per share. And you know, this is extremely likely going to increase over time. So you kind of look at it as like you're putting it in there, and you know it's going to go up over time, hopefully keeping up with inflation, and you know, you just get paid. So see here in 2024, 3.15, $3, $2.80, 260, 240, 220. See how it just keeps going up every year? That's kind of cool. Although we'd rather put our money somewhere else, but you're probably right. If we are going to continue to blow stuff up as a country, then that one will probably do pretty well. All right, well, I hope you guys got something out of that. Thank you for always being here. We'd love to see you at the boot camp. There's a link down in the notes below. And we're also going to be out at Boca Raton in July for the Rick Rule Symposium. We would love to see you guys out there and meet you face to face. There's a link for that as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the like and subscribe and share this with anyone that you think needs to hear it. It's probably your buddy that can't stop talking about NVIDIA. Have yourself a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you next time.